What's up, banana bunch? Bunch? Bunch?
Welcome to the Jungle Gyms podcast. What's up, Banana Bunch? All right, you know what time it is. It's time for another episode of the Jungle Gyms podcast, but this might look or sound weird. It's because I'm coming to you live from inside the Wienermobile. Hey! Oh my gosh. All right, so why don't you introduce yourselves here too?
My name is Glizzy G.
And my name is Allie Dog.
And where are you all headed next after you leave Jungle Gyms?
We'll be
Nashville, Tennessee.
Woo!
Woo!
All right, everyone, so they're hitting the road. I'm going to give you a quick tour. Well, you've already seen the tour inside.
Yeah,
Seat
yeah.
6 in here.
Oh, yes.
Look at that. There's a nice sunroof.
This is our bun roof, actually.
The bun roof.
You're,
Oh!
yeah, you're actually sitting in shot bun.
Yes.
Oh, I'm shot bun?
This is
Don't
shot
forget,
bun.
don't forget to put your meat belt on.
Oh,
You
yeah.
gotta get your meat belt.
You can't move till you got the meat belts on.
Up here we got our bun box.
Bun box up here.
Everything you need in here for a cookout. I got ketchup, mustard, mayo a little bit,
That's
hot
hilarious.
dogs, and everything else in between.
You're being serious about that?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's
And,
so funny.
He said there's some mustard, and we
Yeah,
spilled
yeah.
we hit a little bump, so you can see he spilled some mustard on the
Don't
grass.
Oh, no!
Make sure you watch your step right now. You don't want you to fall or anything.
And then we got our nice custom ketchup and mustard seats with our
yeah.
matching gloves.
Oh, I love it.
And when you're driving, you got to put your meat belt on for safety reasons.
We also have our blue skies when you look on up. We like to say it's always blue skies when you drive the Wienermobile. You can never have a bad day when you drive it or when you see it.
And then with our little condiment carpet, we actually
I love that too.
a whole bunch of everything got spilled in there.
Well,
It's just
And I'm kicking your bags out of the way too. I'm like,
Oh,
I need it out of the shot. And then I put it in the next shot instead.
And then behind that special door,
Ooh, there's a special door. Let's
Oh,
get
yeah.
tight on it.
is
Yeah.
a hot dog hot tub.
yes,
Is there really?
there is.
Okay, that'd be amazing.
We have a lot of, a
Long
lot of
days.
time on the hot dog highways, long days, so we gotta relax somehow.
Yeah.
Hot dog hot tub back there.
That's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Oh, what am I pressing?
Well, that was fun. We're back in the studio now. Thank you to Glizzy G and Allie Dog from Oscar Mayer, driving the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile, for letting me in there for a minute. That was a fun little intro to the show this week, right? Didn't see that one coming. That's what I like about Jungle Gyms. You never necessarily see what's coming next. And you know what? I think that actually is kind of the theme of this week's episode. I'm pulling out my phone here so I can get the ad up because I like to occasionally read about our deals from the app itself. Now, I know I've mentioned this a couple times, but we do have a Jungle Gyms app. It's out there for the iPhone users out there, and it is also out here for us lowly Android people, but it's got the weekly ad, all kinds of stuff like that. But where I was going with this is that spontaneity is one of those favorite things. So before we dive into this, and I'm super stoked because this episode was one I was just waiting to get some clearance on it, and I'm glad everybody loved it. But I'm going to teach you about, well, I'm not personally going to teach you, but I'm going to be the liaison to ensure that you learn more about grapes than you ever thought were possible. And I was talking to AJ about this morning. He runs produce, and you'll see him in the interview later, but that when we started the show, this was something I was hoping we'd be able to do way more often. And then the reality of it is just that scheduling that's like 90% of everything in life. It's like scheduling is the difficult part to make work. So when we get opportunities like this, I always like to jump on them. So we're like, yeah, we've got free time. Let's teach everybody about this. So I'm really excited for you to meet Tammy and learn all about grapes today. But before we dive into that, let's talk some deals here this week. So Lou, we talk about Lou all the time on the show now, I feel like. But for me, I have a cool setup, right? Is that for the most part, I'm usually reaching out to our managers or other employees and I'm saying, hey, is there anything new out there? Is there anything that you're really excited about that I can hopefully get excited about and thus get all of you excited about? So, Lou and I get to connect on this a lot. Obviously, a lot of the managers too, and you've either met them on the show or whatever, but always with the sample. So today I got to try a couple things between Lou brought me some Garrett popcorn from Chicago. If you haven't been to Chicago, if you haven't had Garrett popcorn, have you even been to Chicago? That's how I was trying to say it. It's so good. It's like the best bagged popcorn you can ever get. And we've got multiple different flavors. Lou brought me a spicy one today. But my personal go-to is always the Garrett mix, which is it's cheddar and caramel popcorn. How could you go wrong? A little bit of best of both worlds. That came in recently. Tom over at American Grocery also brought me some new stuff that I don't know if I can say. Well, I'll say their name because I'm excited about it. But I believe it's pronounced Ballreich. They did a collab with a local hero here. I think if you're from the area, you may have heard of Jolly's Drive-In. It's like a little drive-in root beer stand, formerly an A&W root beer stand 100 years ago or whatever. They do hot dogs, all that kind of stuff. But they just collabed with Ballrick, and they came out with a chili cheese dog chip. I don't know where that's going, but I got to try them. I thought they were pretty good. But I'm really excited about the Eclipse chip that they came out with, which is a cheddar and black pepper one. And I think next week, only because I have a meeting after I recorded this, I'm going to talk to you all about the Eclipse coming up soon. So stay tuned. Maybe clear April 8th, because I'm going to try and do something fun with you all. That's the plan. And I think everyone else is on board here, but I guess that's what that meeting I just mentioned was for. All right, let's talk some deals in the ad this week before we dive in. You know, this is not for me, but I know too many people out there love the, how shall I say, like Lunchable style. Someone called Child's Charcuterie. But Armor Lunch Makers is doing 10 for $10 this week. So I know, look, it's one I'm embarrassed to say how many people I know that would love that. But at the same time, hey, come on in and pick some of those up. The ones I'm excited about, I see boneless, skinless chicken thighs for $2.99 a pound. I'm into that. I'll love to do that. You toss a couple. Well, honestly, you can do them with the bone in too. So if you're just really trying to save, the boneless and skinless is just a little easier to work with. Actually, you know what? Let me get on the soapbox about chicken for a second. If you are a carnivore and you do eat meat, I feel like a lot of people only eat chicken breast for some reason, and I don't really know why. Because like the caloric and fat levels are it's not dramatically different between eating like dark meat or light meat or white meat chicken. So I get hopped up on chicken thighs because what's great about chicken thighs is because they're build, I guess, they're nearly impossible to overcook. So like if you're one of those people who's like, I'm afraid of chicken because I'm afraid I might not cook it all the way through, you should be buying chicken thighs because you could cook them for an hour. And that's twice as long as you need. But the point is they won't taste like you did that to them. This is like an easy tip for you and the people around you. So come try chicken thighs this week. Oh, this sounds fun. They got a little potato medley. Lou was all hyped up on this Skinner branded pasta twirls, but they're 89 cents a bag. $2.99 on the golden waffle fries. Oh, that's early 2010s pricing. It is just crazy when I see the big brands, how expensive some of them have gotten over time. So I'm glad we can run deals like that. You know, I got to shout out my people. Oh, wait, here's one more. I'll shout out my people at Pepsi, though. 2 for $4 on the 2 liters. And last but not least, this is the one I just got excited about. I saw in seafood, which you all should be going over there on Fridays. We're doing dollar oysters. I know a lot of you love that. But we've got perch fillets for $4.99 a bag. It looks like that's a pound bag too, so about $5 off. That's awesome. But the one I saw blowing up is 99-cent bags of imitation crab flakes. So it's like a half-pound bag, 99 cents. That's crazy. Make something delicious for me and bring it in. Great. Okay. That's enough yammering for me. Let's dive in this. I want you to meet Tammy, and I want you to learn all about grapes. I'm so excited about this, for real. You've seen my TikTok of the autumn crisp, which you'll learn more about here. Get ready. This is look, and if you're watching the show, if you're a fan of the show, if you're someone who wants to be on the show, this is the kind of content I'm always looking to try and get, right? Not to say the other stuff's bad, but I do love being able to get experts like Tammy on here to tell me things that I didn't even know. Like, I learned things I didn't even know I had questions for. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. And if it doesn't, well, here's Tammy and AJ.
Hi, Mark. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Welcome back to the show. Listen, one of the fun things about Jungle Gyms, I've heard this now from vendors as well, is how quickly we move. So this was one of those days where AJ just called me a few moments ago and was like, hey, I have a grape expert, which is, it's an interesting the way my phone calls have changed over time. Like, hey, Mark, do you want some grapes? I'm like, of course. So anyway, so AJ calls me. He's like, can we do this? And I'm like, yeah, of course. So why don't you introduce our guest today?
So this is Tammy Collin, and I've known her for about
a few years now.
4 years, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe 4.
Yeah, about 4. She used to sell me grapes when she worked for a company called Columbine. Mm-hmm. And me and her, we just would spend 20-30 minutes on the phone talking about everything. She's just a good friend at this point.
I love that.
And like,
I'm fortunate to have a job where I can find a lot of customers that become friends.
yeah,
That's
It's really nice.
I love to hear that,
Yeah.
actually.
And
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, grapes are like one of my weakest strong suits as far as like my knowledge about grapes.
I do love the way you worded that. My weak is strong. So you're like, I'm still a Titan.
That's right. That's right. He is.
And you know, she just having a conversation with Tammy is so enlightening. Like she just will drop random facts about grapes, and I'm just like, hold on, let me write this down.
Yeah.
this sizing what? Like what?
That's amazing.
And varieties and everything else. So I just thought she's a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show, Tammy. I appreciate
Thank you very much. Thanks for asking me.
Yeah,
It's nice, spontaneous fun.
I love it. Do you feel confident? Are you be happy with AJ's intro? Do we need
It's
to,
very
was there anything
good.
you'd like to add to it?
Well, I do now work for Vanguard Direct.
Okay.
Which is a Peruvian grape grower
Okay.
in South America. So after I left AC Foods, I joined this team, and it's been very interesting because they do grow things a little differently, and the climate's different down there. And so it's been a really great, I'm going on my 3rd season with them and having a lot of fun.
So so now hearing Peruvian grape, I was like, is that an area where grapes? I told you off air. I'm just going to ask you every childlike question that comes to mind. I was like, is Peru a good place for grapes?
It is probably the best hidden secret out there. Probably the number 1 place to grow grapes in the entire world.
Wow.
And that is because of the location of where it's being grown. Southern Peru is where we are located in Ica. It's not too far from Machu Picchu, where everybody goes to see the Mayan ruins and such.
Just hanging out in Cusco, eating some nice grapes.
Cusco's the best. Yeah. Now you make me want to go back. But anyway,
You make me want to go. Let's go. Episode's done. We're getting on the plane. Call the jungle copter.
I just got back. But what's so exciting is that everything seems to grow quicker and bigger down there. So the grapes here that we grow and import into the United States are jumbo and jumbo and even giant size.
Right.
Which is a very big grape on those bunches. In the United States, I would say extra large is probably the average size grape. And it could take about 15 months to grow a single new vine into a commercial volume of sales, versus the United States, it takes about 3 years. So the climate, the soil, the minerals and everything in the soil, just the growing that they do down there, it's unbelievable.
It's all about the terroir.
So it's really exciting. I've always enjoyed, working with grapes in California, but this is like a new adventure, and it's just, I'm very proud to be able to sell big, beautiful grapes.
That's so cool.
So, yeah.
I know we joked about this off air when I was like, I'm really going to ask the dumbest questions ever, but for those of us who haven't had one before, what is I'm kidding about what is a grape really, but
So grapes are really like berries that are grown in bunches on a vine. It's one of the oldest fruit that you can find.
I feel so silly asking it that way because I'm sure people are like, I've had a grape, Mark, you're an idiot. And I'm like, thank you.
But not everybody eats them on a regular basis.
And you don't think about it when you eat it. You just, I think most consumers are just like, that tastes good, next.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And it is about a fun, snackable kind of piece of fruit. It's unique because it's not grown like a lot of other fruits and vegetables where there's mass production where you use equipment to harvest the fruit. This is all hand done, right? So people have to pick those berries, bunches of grapes, and put them into containers and get them to the packing facility. Or in California, many of them pack them right there in the fields.
Oh, no kidding.
So
that's cool.
their stations are at the end of a vineyard, at the end of a row, and they just bring the fruit to them, and they sort and they pack. And so what's really kind of cool is where we have in Peru, these farms and ranches we have are all around the manufacturing. So as soon as they're packed, it's less than 30 minutes that they get to and sorted. They get to our packing facility, get blown off and cleaned by equipment, like it goes through a little machine.
Oh, cool.
Takes off some of the dust off the bloom of a grape, and then it goes into the packing house and gets sorted again, and then packed and cooled immediately. So it's a very quick process.
Yeah.
Sometimes in other regions, it could sit outside for many hours or take a truck many, many miles to get it to the packing facility where it's still getting exposure to heat and sun and things like that. So in Peru, it's the setup we have at Vanguard is just really unique and very, very efficient to get quality grapes on the water into the United States and elsewhere in the world.
Sure.
You know.
So let me ask a dumb question, which like everybody's gonna be like, yeah, that's a really dumb question. Is every grape that we've ever had pretty much harvested by hand? Like there's no machines involved in this process as far as picking.
So let's
Or
talk
do
about
they have-
technology, right? Everybody likes to know about new things in technology. For the grape world, only grapes that are for wines are actually harvested by machines or equipment.
Cool.
And it pretty much cuts everything. It takes the leaves, it takes the stems.
Right.
It's going to go through a crusher and it's going to be
That's an earthy
filtered
flavor.
out. And it's, what?
Adds an earthy
is.
flavor.
It has an
Bit of
earthy
stick,
flavor at
a bit
first.
of twig.
Yeah. There-
Well, the flavor's got to come from somewhere.
Well, one time I went to go to what they called one of my friends has a makes wine, winery, and they said, come to our crushing party. And I'm thinking the old Lucy movies.
Yeah, she's
right,
smashing
where
it, right,
you're
exactly.
Smashing with your feet. And I'm like, this is going to be fun. And I got there and I just was pitchforking all the stuff into the crusher. And it had everything, leaves and things. Now, table grapes have to be picked by hand. It's all about appearance. It's all about the quality. You
Okay,
don't
that
want to
makes sense.
handle the fruit a lot.
Right.
So you have to quickly get it picked. You have to take the bunch, and a lot of people don't realize this. You have to, what we call clean the bunch, meaning you're taking out bad berries. So the person, you either cut the or you're pulling any berries. And some of the bad berries are called water berries, meaning they pretty much just have filled with water and they're not really meaty and they don't have the texture and, tasteless. So it's that perfect bunch you sometimes pull out of a bag at your grocery store is not necessarily exactly how it grew. It has been managed to take out maybe some of the bad grapes.
That's
Because
cool.
we wanted only good grapes.
Right, of course. It is funny how much of it is appearance focused, right?
Yes.
I always think about that all the time with produce in particular, where it's like, and I'm just as much of the part of the experience where I'm like, oh, that's a good set versus this is pretty good, right?
Well, really, the average consumer likes to walk up to the display and first whatever catches their eye.
Right.
Could be the packaging, could be the actual berries. We try, and a lot of other growers try to have as much of the berries visible, so you don't have a whole lot of packaging that has a lot of color or graphics on it.
That makes sense.
But you want the berries to shine through. But that, how many times do people walk up and they sample the berry, right? The grape?
Every time in my experience.
And the number one thing is they're looking for is one, crunch is really important to people, that
Yeah.
they have a good bite, the texture of the grape, flavor and sweetness, right?
Sure.
And nowadays, a lot of growers are taking out the old vineyards that we used to have, the good old Thompsons and the Flames and the Crimsons.
Are those different
Those are
types?
older
Okay.
public type varieties, and we call it public because they've been just grown for, and bred so many times. So
Yeah.
it's not something proprietary or unique, developed variety. Anyways, a lot of those are being
I'm just
pulled
starting
away.
grape conspiracy theories
there
on
you
the
go.
show, right? I need you all to know there are secret grape types you've never
That's
tried
right.
and never will.
But everybody's looking for that great
course.
grape. And how
Yeah.
many times that maybe it's not the buyer, right? It's the final consumer at home. And, my husband John will say, hey, honey, these are really great grapes, And then I remember, the variety name, because I happen to see it on the sign
Right.
or it's on the bag. And so grapes are starting to go away from very challenging, hard to grow older grape varieties and develop new varieties that are not only really much better for sustainable reasons for the earth, but
Yeah.
also for the grower to grow, less chemicals to use, less water to use, but at the same time have a really good size grape, great flavor, great crunch that the consumer likes. So it's a real good win-win with all these new varieties that are coming out because it's good for the grower, it's good for the earth, and it's good for the consumer.
Now, would you say like the Autumn Crisp, pretty much everything you just described is the epitome? The Autumn Crisp is that grape? Like
It's one of those grapes. So I worked for Sunworld for many years before I worked for Vanguard, and Sunworld developed that variety, Autumn Crisp, and that grape, it took 15 years to develop.
Wow.
Now, they're getting better, but it's all done the old-fashioned way. It's not, grapes are not GMO. The famous cotton candy is not GMO. It is actually taking parents and matching them and trying to develop a unique flavor, but at the same time, a grape that's also easy to grow, uses less resources, etc. So the Autumn Crisp, is one of our largest crop that we grow in Ica, Peru, and it's grown all over the world, and like many other varieties too, and new varieties. But it's got a great, as the name says, Autumn Crisp. It's grown primarily in the autumn time when it's harvested, and it's got a great bite, a big crunch, a little muscat flavor, just slightly.
Okay.
But the one thing that sometimes I wish people would learn is that green. This is a really good point here.
Here we are, grape facts. Let's go.
This is a great. So you have green grapes, you have red grapes, you have black grapes. But the golden or white grape is the old term. On the white and green grape, the best time they usually are for Autumn Crisp, even Autumn Crisp, is to have a little bit of straw color on the grape, meaning they have like a little light golden color.
Okay.
That's more sugar is in the grape. Just like the cotton candy gets so sugary, it kind of gets almost a grayish color.
Right.
It gets really deep. Well, some of the green grapes, if they just got a little bit of color, like I saw some here in Jungle Gyms, they have a little bit of color. Yeah, but I don't even call it amber. It's just like a little straw, right?
Yeah.
Straw color. And they eat fantastically. And so sometimes I'm like, I think we need to come up with a new term and not call them green grapes, but call them golden grapes.
I love it.
Ooh,
Right?
like
Because they're truly golden. And I know some retailers do that. They'll see that it comes in with a little more color, and they're like, okay, well, I'm going to put a sign out that says, golden grapes instead of green grapes.
Yeah.
Just so that the consumers can understand, okay, that this is a good natural thing. It's not a bad grape.
Right.
It's not a bad green grape. It just has a little more color.
In hearing this too, and I meant to jump in earlier, but when you said the thing about how they're creating things like the cotton candy grape, okay, you mentioned,
Right.
and I thought that was going to be some Frankenstein experiment, right?
Oh, no,
and I guess it kind of is, but in the good way, right? Where
good
it was like,
way.
oh, we're just like crossbreeding these families to get this flavor. So now I'm like triply impressed by those, because at first I was like, okay, this is fun,
They
but
do
now
it in little petri dishes. It's
crazy.
It's amazing to see them, and there's a number of breeders, that again they do it the old-fashioned way. There's no GMO. But that doesn't mean GMO is bad, because
of
in some
course.
crops it's very much needed
yeah, absolutely
to feed the world.
Right. It's like
So-
I think about like the nutritional gains and a the things that went GMO. You're like,
Exactly.
okay, this is way harder
Right.
now. It makes sense.
Right.
I was just so blown away by it. And hearing the expression grape breeder, I'm just like, I can't even believe it's again one of those things where I'm like, oh, before we had this conversation, there was no way I even thought that existed.
No.
Just to be honest with everyone.
No, and I thought you were going to say like an educational session. I thought we were going to talk about, because a lot of times the grapes will come in with a little bit of amber, with a little bit of straw in them.
Yeah.
And those are the uglier grapes that the consumer is going to dig through those bags to find that perfect solid color.
Yeah,
You don't
of
want that
green.
one.
Okay.
No.
Because it's,
That's
No.
cool. And I'm glad we're getting that, because I was going to lead into like, talk to me about what we should be looking for when
Even
we're
a
buying these.
speckled grape, even
Okay.
if you had a red grape that had a little lighter colors, even maybe a white cap or a yellow cap on the top where it attaches to the stem, that's just coloring. Sometimes it does not have an effect at all on the flavor.
Okay.
And I think that more education needs to go out, because there's probably a lot of food waste when the farmers are trying to pick and pack only the perfect bunches.
Right.
And some of that waste can go to juice.
Sure.
And there's a lot of farmers who are doing a lot of sustainable practices to make sure that they use everything that they got. But there are times that there's just a lot that goes to waste. And if you get a bag, how many times does this happen? You get a bag of grapes,
Yeah.
you take it home, you pick up the bunch, and there's a bunch of grapes at the bottom, right? And
Right.
that's called shatter.
Okay.
That's the term that we call. But it's not that they're bad. There's that sweet usually that they've reached the most sugar they're going to get, and they fall off of the stem. And with the travel from getting it from a field to
Sure.
packing to on a truck in cartons to the destination of maybe a distribution center or a retailer, getting into the retail, getting on this, it goes through so much movement that sometimes you're going to have some shatter at the bottom. But it's something that every grape grower tries their darndest to grow a grape that has great berry attachment, no matter how much sugar you get in it.
Oh, interesting.
I think that if they could develop a small camera and put it next to a bunch of grapes as being picked, just to watch the journey from it going from field to box to truck to boat to box, or and then out like what you said, and then to only have 2 or 3 grapes that would be in the shatter, like that's amazing.
Yes, it is amazing, and I'm amazed when I see the products that come from. You could get grapes from Australia, or you could get grapes from Spain, South Africa. It all comes to the United States, and it's amazing to see how very little shatter there is, especially with the new varieties. So the grape world is kind of becoming and learning from the apple world, because the apples have a lot of unique varieties, and new varieties are coming out all the time. And so the grapes we're looking for just the best eating grape that's really good for the grower and good for the earth too. So it's not easy.
No, but it's worth it. I mean, you're getting a quality product. You're doing it in a sustainable way.
Healthy fruit. Yeah, you get your vitamins, and it's a good snack to have versus maybe other sugar items. But
absolutely. Are there other common misconceptions about grapes that you like? Now's your chance. The floor is yours. What would you love people to know
other
about
than the yellow color or the speckles?
I mean, I think honestly that's a huge thing.
You don't
So
have to
now
have
I'm
a
like
perfect color grape. I mean, just like some of the apples I've eaten have been like very different colors, or especially locally grown. Right?
Yeah.
I love locally grown, and you cut them up, and like, wow, that wasn't the prettiest apple, but sure was the best tasting, right?
I've been using that in my personal life my whole life. Okay.
I bet you have. So I don't know.
You won't find me in the shatter.
I just think people don't realize when they look at a price of a bunch of grapes or a bags that it is handpicked and it's all manual labor.
Yeah.
Even though you might be in a packing line in a manufacturing, packing facility for grapes, it could be where you're packing it, but then you're putting the box that's all packed or the clamshells that are all packed into their boxes and then sending it off on a conveyor belt.
Right.
People are still packing it.
Yeah.
It's still all done by hand. And that's not necessarily like other berries. Grapes are berries too. Blueberries and a little different. Raspberries still handled by hand, things like that.
That makes sense.
Yeah, depends on the delicacy of the fruit, right?
That makes perfect. That's exactly what I was thinking. It was like a little too much action on a robot's hand.
Yeah.
Don't mess up my raspberries.
Yeah, that's right. But a lot of people, when you say, I sell grapes, or what do you do, and they all think it's wine grapes. And I'm like, no. This is table grapes, and they have to be big, beautiful, and tasty.
It is fun. Yeah, we really, it's funny in this regard that we definitely eat with our eyes first, but then thinking also that it astounds me now that I'm in this position, right? So I've gotten to learn from a lot of people like yourself. It astounds me how cheap produce really is. As silly as that sounds to say out loud, when you think about the level of labor, the one that really first blew my mind was coffee, for example, where I was like,
right.
Oh yeah, people are still literally walking up a mountain to collect berries by hand, right? And so that happens, and obviously it's happening in a lot of literal fields in this regard, but you know what I mean? In like different ends of the industry, I find it so fascinating. And I love these moments because I love getting to express to a bunch of other people who I know are watching this going, grapes or berries, that was like the beginning. And then really thinking about how many people are involved in this process, and that it still comes out at like a couple dollars a pound. You know what I mean? I'm like, think about what the labor cost was comparatively.
You have labor, you have just the cost of water.
Yeah, water. I mean, it's
a big important thing. And then transportation.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know it costs a lot to take something from, say, California or wherever the imported fruit comes in the different ports, and then get it everywhere it needs to go
for sure in
North America. So it can be challenging, but
I'm sure, but fun, a little interesting at least.
So yeah,
grapes are flowing through the arteries of every country.
But I think now you'll start seeing more and more growers or retailers promoting the variety names.
When you said grapes have become more like apples, I completely agree with that. I think they're trying to learn from the Honeycrisp 25 years ago.
Right.
Let's brand it as the Autumn Crisp, as the Adora.
It's not just a green grape. It's not just a red grape.
Yes.
And a lot of times you see that red grapes for sale,
You're like,
probably
which
a
kind?
$2.99 a pound or whatever,
Yeah.
right? And yet there are names for all those grapes, and a lot of people find their favorites, and so they'll ask for that name sometimes. And produce managers are starting to learn all the different varieties of grapes that are out there, and all the old grapes. One of my favorite old ones is Thompson's. I grew up in Thompson's, and they're kind of going away.
Oh, I thought you were making a noise.
It's a tough grape to grow.
Okay.
First of all, it's a very tough grape to grow, and they're just nothing compared to the new varieties. So you see a lot of those old vines being pulled out and new vines being put in.
Wild. It's like the Red Delicious story going back to the apple. It's the apple comparison.
Yeah, I hope that you don't find offense to this, but I can't wait until there's no more Thompsons.
But you have customers who still ask for them, don't they? Customers still ask for Thompsons. They always do.
Why don't you like it? Is it purely a taste thing?
It's
a very small time frame.
Well, it's a small bunch of grapes as well. Like they don't grow
smaller.
very large
No.
Thompsons, and the bricks are never the greatest, and they're just a hard grape to sell. I mean, people.
Correct.
You look at a bag. If you took a Thompson cluster out of a bag and took an Autumn Crisp out of a bag, nobody.
Size comparison, color, all that stuff.
No, you want to make sure that if you're bringing in a Thompson, it's a limited time period and putting it in the right, spot away from the other grapes.
Yeah.
Sure.
So.
That's wild. Again, it's another one of those things where I'm sitting here going like, oh, there's different varieties of that. Again, because I was just one, I was like red or green. And then it was like, oh, there's a black grape too. It looked kind of like the red to me. I'm going to just.
I tell you, the black grapes could be the best tasting grapes too.
Oh, all right. That's my
and
kind
they
of
really
tip.
were growing for quite a while with some new varieties, and there still are. But yeah, I think some of the black grapes have some of the best flavors. But it takes a while for some, and some regions are very, here's a little tidbit of information.
I knew it was going to happen.
There's certain regions that are really big with, say, the black grape that sells really well. Like there's some retailers in Texas that really promote the black grape a lot. And it's a lot of diverse cultures that shop at some of the stores, and they love having that black grape, and it can sell. Same thing with maybe big cities like Los Angeles and New York.
Yeah.
The black grape can sell very well. You come to Midwest, maybe like, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Indiana, and red and green seem to be the most popular.
Okay.
Right? It's just like, Mountain Dew. Mountain Dew in Minnesota is one of the most popular drinks in Minnesota. But you take that down to Texas and it's Dr. Pepper.
Right, exactly.
Right? So
like we bottled this by hand in Dublin, Texas.
Exactly. So just like different regions, you have different.
And the Globe grape is pretty popular in Florida and Georgia in the South.
Yeah, the red globes. Yeah, the red globe can be very popular in the South and in the Southeast. They are seeded grapes, but not every time you see a name globe does that mean seeded.
Okay.
It's just that the red globe has been so popular and is one of the oldest grapes over hundreds of years that the seed has never been removed. It's not a seedless grape. And that's a whole nother discussion, okay?
Hey, that's
seedless
visit too.
and seeded. That's another time. I'll come back and visit.
I would
you,
love
okay?
that, seriously.
But,
I'll meet you in the fields. We can do this by hand.
but there's sweet globes, which in fact we're harvesting those in the next couple of weeks down in Peru. And the sweet globes are a seedless green grape.
Okay.
And so they're not even red. They're just called sweet globes. And sometimes growers will just create fun, creative names for grapes. And there are sweet globes that are called a different name. Because they wanted to have a different catchy name.
This is our
maybe.
chance to brand it.
Possibly,
I can't hate the hustle. I love it, honestly.
Yeah.
I love it. I was going to ask, are there any varieties that we should be keeping our eyes peeled for coming down the pipeline? Because now I've heard Autumn Crisp enough that I feel like the name sponsored this episode.
Yeah, really. I have to say, you're right.
I'm like, I want to try the Sweet Globe, so that's on the list now, too.
So sweet globes are very good. They can eat so well. They're coming out of Peru soon. Autumn Crisp is too. It's our largest crop of green grape. And then Sweet Celebration is a great red grape that is kind of a nice, pretty round grape. And that is being harvested just starting this week and next in Peru. So in southern Peru. So yeah, I would say those are very good ones. There's a lot of others that, I'm learning new ones. You just got a new one from Brazil.
Cherry Crush, yeah.
Cherry Crush.
New varietal.
Nice.
Limited. He was one of very few stores to get that grape.
That's cool.
In the United States.
Wow.
And they were limited to pallets that came to the U.S. versus,
kidding.
yeah. So it's a brand new
Where's
grape.
my call on that?
Yeah,
I've got another pallet due on Thursday.
it's minimal. That's coming right now, and that's
awesome.
in Brazil.
And this is the last pallet in this cold storage facility.
Well, I'm going to
There
air
you
this
go.
one as soon. Not this. It's not airing this week, but I'm going to air this like in close enough that people might be able to get to try them.
Might be able to.
Yeah, I'm being very loosely. Like that is cool
It might
though.
be gone by then.
Worst case, I'll put a little clip of this up here and be like, "Come in right now," while prior to the release.
No. So aside from Thompson, which I know cannot be your favorite grape, what is your favorite new grape? Like your favorite new grape
My
variety?
favorite,
You're like,
my
it can't-
favorite
it
new
just-
grape. Well, I'd
Because you've
have
had so
to
many grapes that
say,
we haven't had.
okay.
There's so many varietals.
Well, this
out
is
there.
not necessarily new. It's been around for a while, but it's a close second to the Autumn Crisp. So I do love the Autumn Crisp. A lot for the light flavor and the texture of the grape and the crunch. But I do love the Sable Seedless, which is another Sunwell grape that is very sweet, strong muscat flavor.
Okay.
Very popular in Europe, very popular in Canada. We used to grow it and try to sell it in the United States, and still do. There are some clamshells that are definitely sold a lot of. Sable Seedless.
Love it.
Sable Seedless. And so it's a dark black grape. It's
Okay.
a smaller berry, smaller bunches, medium to large in size. But when I eat it, it's like, wow. It is got some sweetness to it, and it's got a lot of muscat flavor.
So when you mention muscat flavor, what do you mean by that? Like, is
Well,
that?
it's hard to describe. How do you describe muscat flavor? Kind of a tropical, real sweet kind of flavor. I've never had
I'll take that.
dried
We had
muscat.
We did.
About a week ago. Yeah.
Sable?
No,
Oh,
just
different one.
muscat
Just a
grapes.
regular. There are muscat grapes. That's what they're called. And it's
I've
just
seen
a
it
unique
sometimes
flavor.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've seen it in like international packaging and like
Yeah.
like I'm like, oh, and then but they always have a picture of it. So me being the brilliant person I am, I was like, oh, it just means a green grape, perfect. Or,
Right.
you know what I mean? I was like,
Right.
all right, great.
Right.
But no, hearing this now, that makes a lot of sense. Give a
Yeah,
little
so
that,
I'd
little
say
flourish.
those are two of my favorite grapes.
Was
I'm
that
in.
any similar to like the muscatel grape? Because we used to buy the muscatels.
Yeah, it's got it has that muscat flavor. It's probably the Sable's a little more tropical flavor to it, but
I can just
they're all when you have muscat to it, and depending on the level of how strong it is, that probably makes the difference.
I can just like see some grape expert out there cringing when I ask that. Like, this guy doesn't know anything about grapes at all.
You're like, listen,
Well, no,
I don't need to.
that's
I just need to sell them.
Yeah, we won't go into any more details. I only know so much too.
No, that's cool.
On the muscat, but yeah.
I appreciate you letting me
ask.
ask it. What was it? You had another term earlier I meant to ask. Oh, you mentioned the bloom of the grape. What does that mean?
Oh, that's a very good question,
Thank you.
Mark. Okay, so all grapes are grown outdoors, and to kind of protect themselves, they actually have what we call a bloom that is almost like the light coating that's on a grape. So sometimes you see how it looks kind of maybe fuzzy, or it might have like
dusty
You think
almost?
it's dust. Sometimes
Yeah.
a bloom will attract some dust, because in California it can get dusty.
Sure.
But there is a natural bloom on grapes, and so before you wash them, they might look like, that's why you take an apple or whatever,
Right.
you wipe it on your pants and
Yeah,
then you
exactly.
eat it, right? The grapes do the same thing. I used to just go out to the vineyards and just kind of wipe it on my pants or wipe it on my hands and take the bloom off of it and eat it. And it's just a coating that helps protect the berry.
Oh, cool.
From insects?
From weather, I don't know if it really could help too much from insects, but just from climate and sun and things like that.
That's cool. I
So
had
it's
no
a
idea.
natural barrier type of thing. That's
Love it.
And a lot of people don't understand that there's a natural bloom on every berry, but some have stronger, thicker ones, and some have very, like the Autumn Crisp. You really don't see the bloom on an Autumn Crisp.
Well, you said something earlier that really surprised me. You said the growing time in Peru versus California.
Oh, yes.
That is...
So it's 15 months to do a commercial, to get commercial volume and a decent harvest out of the grapevines in Peru, in Ica, in the southern Peru, and probably northern Peru too, yes. But the climate allows us to grow it so fast and can grow it in a pretty good size, versus like in California, it takes about 3 years to get that commercial volume off of a new ranch that's been planted. So
Wow.
yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it takes a while to get. So from like the Autumn Crisp, it was 15 years before we had commercial volume.
But if that would have been...
That's development.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna test grapes for many years before you probably invest into putting them in vineyards, because you want to make sure, you know, things can change every year. It's just like trees and vineyard and vines can do that too. They can have a different year every year. And maybe what was seedless once, 2-3 years down the line, all of a sudden you start seeing some seed traces or the seeds come back.
Really?
And I'm not the grape breeder specialist in that. You'd have to ask somebody like that and how that works.
That's
but
cool though.
yeah.
I've seen like a little form of evolution. And then I'll eat the evolution.
Yeah,
That's
I
amazing.
mean, you have to think about, you know, this like the seedless watermelon. How was that developed?
Right.
And that was actually developed by Sunworld too.
Oh.
But I don't know too much about watermelons other than
It's okay. We'll keep it purely grape
Thank you.
focus this time. You're fine. I'll let it slide. I'll reach out to the watermelon
I appreciate
experts in our
that.
life.
Well, and then I just also this was completely like we did not plan this at all. So I apologize so much.
no.
Yeah. Do you mind if we just shove a camera and some lights on
Yeah.
you? Yeah. Thank you. No, truly. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I like it. It was
Yeah,
fun.
same. Me too.
No, it's great to talk about something I'm passionate about that I love.
And you're an expert in your field, and I just
Thank
appreciate this
you.
so much.
Yeah. Thanks
I
for being here.
appreciate you all at Jungle Gyms. This is an awesome place to shop, and I wish it was right down the street from where I live.
Well, we're opening the Peruvian location soon, so you just come. We'll get a real quick access to new fruit. So.
There you go. It would be a big hit.
Oh, I think so. Well, Tammy, thanks so much for joining us. Truly appreciate
pleasure.
it. Yeah, I'm looking
Thank
forward to the
you.
next episode.
Absolutely. I'll bring some new tidbits next time.
All right, I'll be prepared.
Okay.
We'll go see. I think what did you threaten before? Seeded versus seedless. I'm in. I want to find. Look, I hate the verbiage. It's one of those things. I was like, this means nothing to me because both of these seem like they've named them opposite.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to eat things, and if it crunches, it
Enjoy
sounds like a
it.
problem for my dentist more
Enjoy
than
it.
me. You know. So. Awesome.
Definitely.
Well, thank you so much again for joining me. I love a little spontaneity. It works out great for me. Come in anytime. Tammy, you're always welcome. Yeah, this is really cool. I love doing an informative thing like that. So again, if you're out there, you're watching the show, you have a great idea for somebody you think that should come on, or if you're one of those people that's like, I'd like to be on the show. This is the kind of content I want to make. So help me do that. So reach out to me at any time. And honestly, this goes for all of you. Podcast at junglejims.com. Hopefully I'll have some good news, like I said earlier, about the Eclipse stuff coming up. And, you know, in the meantime, just stay tuned. Subscribe to us on YouTube. We've got more short form content coming out there. Lucky and I are working on this like whole pizza series that I thought was really fun. And hopefully you enjoyed as well. Amongst other things, there's so much good stuff that we're getting out there. So in the meantime, I say we wrap this episode up. I appreciate you all watching. And I'll see you out there in the aisles. The Jungle Gyms podcast is recorded in the WJJI studio inside Jungle Gyms International Market in Fairfield, Ohio. The Jungle Gyms podcast is produced and hosted by Mark Borison.